This is Miceal O'Hurley. Thank you for joining us for another episode of In Conversation this week. We have as our guest His Excellency Mr. Sandeep Kumar, the Ambassador of India to Ireland. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us during this busy time.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Ambassador, I want to catch up if we can. When we talked last year at the beginning of the pandemic, you had a very extensive outreach program to the Indian Irish community. Can you bring us up to date on that and tell us how the diaspora in Ireland are doing?
Thank you for this very important question. We have around 45,000 Indian diaspora members in Ireland. They have shown exceptional community solidarity, civic responsibility, adherence to HSE norms, and spirit of leadership in being able to tackle this situation. A year ago, there was a lot of panic, anxiety, uncertainty about various aspects of the COVID situation. A lot of them were stranded, they could not get back home. So the embassy created institutional mechanisms to be able to assist the Indian diaspora, not just in Dublin, but throughout the country. We established community support groups with representations from various professions, including doctors, teachers, student leaders, business people, professional clinical psychologists, to be able to assist 24/7 the Indian community in Ireland. We had very strong partnerships with the regional organizations, with the religious bodies, with the Hindu temple, the Gurdwara, with the volunteers who are going out to be able to distribute free food, medicines, help with accommodation, security aspects, etc. And the Indian government, we organized 2 direct Air India flights to be able to transport people who had been stuck here, whether it were tourists, elderly people who required medication. There were several women who were pregnant who needed to get back to India. There were distressed students. The universities had closed and they needed to be reunited with their parents and families. So we transported around 550 Indian community members directly from Dublin to various destinations in India. And at the same time, we have continued to facilitate the travel of Indian nationals through the bubble points within Europe, for instance, Frankfurt, Paris, London, Amsterdam, etc., which is continuing. And we also set up very strong support structures in association with the various universities throughout Ireland to be able to help all international students, including the Indian students. So those structures are still in place because the situation continues to be alarming and we are still monitoring it very carefully. The level of panic and stress is far more reduced now than compared to a year ago. There is faith in the vaccination process. There is confidence in the HSE guidelines, and the situation here is far better as restrictions are being eased off in a phased manner. So I'm glad to say that there's been a strong community effort which continues even today.
I'm glad to hear all that, Mr. Ambassador. I know your program of outreach to your community here across Ireland has been the envy of a lot of the embassies, and I congratulate you on it. I want to talk, if we can, for a minute about the government lifting restrictions here in Ireland. Is that going to have a change on the way you're delivering consular services, the way you engage as an ambassador with diplomacy, or will we continue to see a hybrid mix of these practices into the future?
Let me first just emphasize one point, that the Indian embassy did not close for a single day over the last year and a half. We continued to work every single day. We were coming to office, and even outside office hours, we were available 24/7. We gave out emergency helpline numbers. We were answering every email, every telephone call. And over the last year itself, we have delivered more than 6,000 consular services, and of which there has been 30% increase in services for passports, for attestations, for birth registrations, etc. Of course, we did not give as many visas because there has been a restriction on international travel and issuance of tourist visas. But we continued to give business visas, employment visas, etc., to facilitate the business aspects even during the time of the COVID. And now, today, as the restrictions are opening up, we are in a position to get more and more people coming into the embassy by prior appointment. We are continuing to render full services. Of course, going forward, we will have to adapt to the new normal. We will have to have a hybrid practice of physical meetings, physical collections of documents, as well as services rendered through post, which will continue and which may in the long run turn out to be more pragmatic and maybe more effective. We've had so many webinars and Zoom calls on various aspects. We've had competitions, whether it is at cultural level, business. We've had quizzes, we've had prizes, art exhibitions, etc., through webinar and virtual platforms, which have been very well appreciated. And we shall continue to do that. And again, as I said, depending on how the situation emerges, the vaccination program is ongoing. And as more restrictions are lifted, the diplomatic community itself would be able to perform its core functions of going out, reaching out to the people of Ireland, to be able to network, to reach out to businesses, to create business and investments and technological opportunities for our countries as we proceed into the future.
There we go. Mr. Ambassador, I want to talk about India if we can for a second. India was the very model of fighting the spread of the infections in the beginning of the pandemic. Lately, India has faced a crisis with the level of the pandemic spread. Tell me where India is today and what you expect into the near future.
All eyes are on India today because of the alarming surge in cases and fatalities since April. We were doing very well until March, when there were less than 10,000 cases. But over the course of April and May, the cases went up and peaked to even beyond 400,000. But today, we are less than 300,000, and the weekly positivity rate has come down from around 35% to around 18%. But we cannot be complacent. I do not wish in any manner, and I emphasize this, to undermine or minimize the situation in India. At the same time, I would like to say that the government is taking all measures to be able to alleviate suffering and to make equipment available to all who deserve that. And I will just raise a few points, and I may have to give you a few statistics. Number one, vaccine availability. We are trying our best to expand the local vaccine production, as well as be able to get vaccines from external sources as well. As of today, we have vaccinated or administered 180 million doses, which is far more than the doses which have been administered in the whole of European Union countries combined. And we are the third largest in this aspect after China and US. There is a plan to be able to make available 2.18 billion vaccine doses from August to December. This is a combination of local manufacturing, as well as the Serum Institute is in touch with Novavax. There is Johnson & Johnson, which is in touch with the Indian Biological E. The Cadillac Zydus would also be making available its vaccine very soon. The Sputnik vaccine has already arrived in India and will commence to be distributed very soon. So there's a huge plan for vaccine availability and production. Number two, we also got a big plan for monitoring of genomic variations of the coronavirus, which is extremely important. There are 10 labs currently at the national level in India which are doing the monitoring of the genome changes in the coronavirus, and we have different mutants which are far more transmissible and more deadly. And several other labs are periodically being added to this national effort. We have number three, the enhanced supply of medicines and medical equipment to our infrastructure to supplement the health infrastructure throughout the country. As you will appreciate that, over the last year, we have supplemented the health infrastructure by 20 to 50%. But when we are hit by figures which are 5 to 10 times higher in the second wave as compared to the first wave, then no country would be able in a position to enhance its health infrastructure 5 to 10 times. But at the same time, for instance, the availability of medicines, remdesivir, which is a highly sought after medicine in India, we have enhanced its production from 3.9 million vials per month to 11.8 million vials per month. This has been happening at a very, very fast pace. And yesterday, we also released the new COVID drug, 2-deoxy-D-glucose, which has been developed indigenously by DRDO, which is the Defense Research and Development Organization of India, which we hope can be a game changer in some ways in alleviating the inflammation and the seriousness of the disease. Number three, testing. We have continuously been asked what is the testing rate in India. I would like to say that we are currently, just as of yesterday, for instance, we did 1.5 million tests over a period of 24 hours. This is an average. So far, a total of 316.4 million tests have been done in the country. But of course, we are a country of 1.4 billion people. So everything we do, and the numbers may assume to be large, but in relation to that large population, it still pales in comparison, and we still need to do far more. We now have 2,536 COVID testing labs with over 7,000 RT-PCR machines all over the country, and this is being augmented. And an extremely important component is reaching out to the semi-urban and the rural areas where the virus is now surging. And even there, we have plans for setting in motion mobile RT-PCR testing vans and rapid antigen test availability in the rural areas as well. I will now come to improved oxygen position. You have seen images on TV of people gasping for breath, not having oxygen concentrators, ventilators, oxygen tanks, etc. in hospitals. Now, this capacity is also being augmented in a large way. In the second wave, we have enhanced production of liquefied medical oxygen from 5,600 MTs per day to around 10,000 MTs per day, which has doubled in capacity. Supply of tankers and cylinders are made available. Oxygen is now being manufactured in various even non-medical plants and industrial plants throughout India. The Air Force, the Navy, and express oxygen trains have been commissioned to be able to distribute and transport liquid oxygen to various destinations throughout India. And all this requires a lot of effort, but I would like to thank the communities, the NGOs, the private sector, the global community, the state governments, the central governments, which needed to come together and have come together to be able to go forward. It is still a long journey ahead. There are also talks of a third wave, probably in October or December, when the children would be hit harder, and we need to be preparing for that as well.
Well, we're all in this together, Mr. Ambassador. I know that Minister Colin Brophy announced, I think a week and a half ago, that Ireland had set 1,300 oxygen concentrators and 2 oxygen generators to India. There was some criticism in some quarters of the media that these international gifts were not getting to hospitals, that they were tied up in customs and bureaucracy. Are the supplies that are coming from the international community reaching their intended destinations for medical use?
Again, this is a very important question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to respond to this. You have rightly pointed out that Ireland has very, very swiftly and generously donated 1,250 oxygen concentrators, 425 oxygen ventilators, 2 oxygen tanks, and they are still in the process of mobilizing more equipment. They were, in fact, one of the first countries to come forward with this assistance as part of the overall coordinated EU response. Their first plane load of assistance reached India on 29th March, and the second plane load reached India on 4th of May. First was in April, and the second one was in May. And I have already given full details of the distribution of every equipment supplied by the Irish government to the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Health. And what I would like to explain is that the government has set up an interministerial mechanism of coordination of every single item of aid that is received from overseas. And this cell, interministerial cell, comprises of the Department of Health, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Department of Pharmaceuticals, Civil Aviation, Defense, etc., so that there is no delay in disbursement of aid. The government has given blanket exemptions for customs duty, for integrated generalized service tax, no objection certificates, etc., at the central and state government level. And we have already identified the Indian Red Cross to be the consignee and recipient of all aid which is given to the government by foreign governments or private sources, so that this can be sent out to the destined and designated hospitals or medical institutions as soon as possible. A very rigid SOP practice has been set up so that the aid received at various airports or naval ports can then be transmitted in a speedy fashion to the designated spots within India. Of course, there are logistic challenges as well. Sometimes there are some delays with respect to matching the specifications of the equipment to the units where they need to be installed, the capacity of installation, of technical expertise, of guarantees, of training of the equipment, etc. But overall, there has been a speedy process of disbursement of aid from foreign countries and other sources to the designated medical and other institutions in India.
Well, I think the Irish people will be thrilled to hear that within days of leaving Ireland, those supplies reach the frontline workers providing medical care and assistance. Mr. Ambassador, I want to talk, if I can, for a minute about the Serum Institute. The Serum Institute is critically vital to ensuring the world gets its supply of vaccines. They've announced that they've had some problems delivering the amount of dosages that they had wanted to meet in their production schedule. Almost all people in this supply process have found challenges. Where are we today with the Serum Institute? When will India begin to ramp up production such that we can start to see greater outflow of serum supplies, not only internationally, but specifically to the third world?
The Indian government has already provided support in terms of financial resources and other technical support to the Serum Institute for expanding of their production facilities. You're absolutely right that there have been some delays in meeting commitments, but Serum Institute also has private commitments with various countries throughout the world, and they need to keep up with their commitments as per their various arrangements and contracts. There have been delays also on account of raw material supply from various countries, including the US, where this was prohibited on account of the Defense Production Act invokement. But this now has been relaxed and the raw material is reaching the Serum Institute. And it is also affecting the vaccination process in India, apart from being sent out to various other regions, including European Union, including the African countries. But I'm hopeful that that the process of revamping of the production facilities will be expedited, and that the delays will be overcome, and that we shall be able to meet all the commitments in the near future.
This brings me to my next point, Mr. Ambassador. The Indian economy drives the world. There's no way of escaping that. What is this going to do to the Indian economy and therefore the world economy? Can you give us a bit of a forecast if you can?
Given the uncertainty surrounding COVID, it's very difficult to be certain on any particular aspect. But what I would say is that various credit ratings who had projected the Indian GDP growth to be between 11 to 12%, including IMF, they will be revising that growth. I know that JP Morgan has already said that from 11.5, it could come down to 10%. And others have predicted within the same range of 10 to 11%, which is still high. Last year, we recorded around 6.5%, which was one of the highest in the world when many other countries were contracting growth. But I'm confident in the resilience of the Indian industry, the creativity, the innovation. There have also been reports by ratings agencies that the second wave may not impact India at the same economic level as it did in the first wave, because this time the lockdowns are done more narrowly in a more focused manner, and it is also linked to greater credibility in the behavioral changes in the businesses and the employees, better adjustments to the pandemic situation, which will not derail the economic process so badly as it was in the first wave. So we are confident that with innovation, with commitment, with pragmatism, resilience, we will continue to grow from maybe 12 to 10 to 11%, which is still very high, that the economy is rebounding. And this is also linked to the global economy. And with Ireland itself, we have plans, we have identified areas of collaboration, frontier areas in ICT, in medtech, in healthcare, fintech, agri-tech, and in ICT in particular, the digital economy, the AI, the iCloud messaging, geotracing, advanced BPOs, virtual technologies. And some of our companies here have also given software solutions to schools and hospitals for assessments, for data management and protection. And at the same time, I would also like to inform that over the last year, even while we were going through this pandemic downturn, two Indian companies acquired certain stakes in Ireland. One was Tech Mahindra and the other one was TCS. These are global companies. And this is also linked to that post-Brexit phase when companies are looking at opportunities, and Ireland is positioning itself at an advantageous point in the EU. It is English speaking, it has high skilled workforce, low corporate tax rate of 12.5%, common law practice, which is same as India. So we are also advising our companies to look at Ireland as an alternative to UK post-Brexit. And a lot of companies are looking at expanding operations within Ireland, which also then becomes a gateway to European Union, as well as to the larger transatlantic US. So I'm confident that even with respect to India-Ireland relationship, we will be doing better than we did last year. And we will be working on our priority areas of ICT, healthcare, medtech. And over last year itself, there has been a large increase in recruitment of Indian healthcare workers into Ireland. I have visited a lot of them. I have been traveling to various counties, to various institutions, including medical institutions, where I have met with them. They are contributing to the healthcare system in Ireland. So these are some of the areas that we shall continue to work on. Then we also have that whole healthcare lifestyle systems of yoga, of Ayurveda, of Indian spices, of various elements of protocols, which we are trying to promote in Ireland as we are throughout the world. And we are also in the process of establishing chairs of maybe Ayurveda and yoga in various institutions. We are talking to them. There is in principle enthusiasm. We need to take it forward. So we are trying to build opportunities out of challenges. And this would be the focus and theme of our work in the coming year.
India, like Ireland, is now occupying a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council. How important do you think that seat is? What does it mean for the bilateral relationship with Ireland? And I'd like to talk to you about it again in the future if we can. Give me a few words about it, if you would.
One, we are very pleased to be occupying the UNSC non-permanent seat for the concurrent term of 2021-22, together with Ireland. Our foreign ministers have had telephonic conversation. Our high-level officials from both sides have had Zoom discussions on the way forward in aligning our agenda, which is peacekeeping, multilateralism, women empowerment. Also, we have been looking at ways of global and regional peace and security. So these are some of the agenda items that we would be working on. And it's a great opportunity for these two countries to come together at the global platform, which is also a complement to the bilateral relationship, because we, as you know, we enjoy a very warm and very solid political relationship rooted in our historical freedom struggle movements. But today, these have been modernized and diversified in various areas of education, economic, science and technology, research, culture. So we are happy that all this is coming together also at the global level at the UNSC, and hopefully together we shall be contributing to resolving a lot of these global issues which are at stake.
Let me press you for a prediction, if I can, Mr. Ambassador. With reform at the United Nations Security Council, which is badly needed, will we see India take up a permanent seat in the future?
I can only say I hope so. This would also be, warranted on account of various factors, on account of more equitable geographical regional distribution at the Security Council, on account of more realistic geostrategic realities. India does have global ambitions. We are very willing to assume those global responsibilities and commitments, because with global stature comes responsibility, duties, and we are very willing to discharge them. We have been doing so even during the time of the pandemic. We have been supplying medicines and vaccines and medical equipment to several countries. We are fully committed to discharging our responsibilities at the UNSC level, and I hope that India's call for reform of the United Nations Security Council will be listened to, and that we can, during our term, at least make some movement forward towards this.
Well, I think it would be certainly more representative of the world as it is today. Well, Mr. Ambassador, I congratulate you and our Foreign Affairs Minister, Simon Coveney, on continuing to improve our bilateral relationships. I know you and I have talked about this before. The economic trade, the commerce, the cultural opportunities for Ireland and India to work together are fantastic. I know you have to go. It's a particularly busy time for you with the pandemic, but there was also another crisis that arose in the last 48 hours, and that's a cyclone that hit India. Bring me up to date on what its impact's been, and are your families okay? What can the international community do to help?
Thank you very much. Yes, it is a double whammy in terms of the coronavirus surge, which may be peaking in some areas, but still a matter of huge concern. And the cyclone, which has hit certain states in India. Again, we have been taking all the necessary measures with the mobilization of the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the disaster relief management structure in place at the national and the state level. There has been destruction, but we shall overcome. I thank the international community and yourselves for offer of support and assistance. The Indian government is grateful for that, but at the same time, on our own, we are fully committed to meeting this challenge, and hopefully there will be respite from the cyclone.
Well, it couldn't have come at a worse time, but I know the response has been robust, and I hope everybody is well and India continues to tackle that problem. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for taking time. I appreciate you coming on in conversation this week. Stay well, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
I'm Miceal O'Hurley. We've had as our guest today Mr. Sandeep Kumar, the Ambassador of India to Ireland. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.